Well, what a beautiful night we have for another promenade. Many of our Art Guild members are here, and they probably can remember one of our last promenades. Our first one was in, I have to look at my notes, was in 2001. And we did this for roughly 10 years, and the purpose of the promenade was to recognize and to keep in the forefront the colony. And the colony was here in the 1930s, and some very notable artists at that time. Now, I'm not going to go into the history, because a little bit down the road, Anna, our historian, is going to talk a little bit about how this evolved. And then Carolyn, our president, is going to she's going to talk about the history and kind of round things up at the end and talk about a lot of the people that were responsible for making this happen this evening. The colony, again, it is our legacy. It's one of the reasons that the many of us that are artists today are here today. We look upon them as people that we can reflect on and to, and realize that they were important to us. And we have probably over, I'm not even sure how many members, but it's over 50 members in the Guild today. And while maybe the Guild has not been ongoing every year since 1932, there weren't too many years in between where we were not functioning. The Art Guild started, again, I should leave this up to Anna, but it was in the 1980s, and I will leave this up to Anna to talk about that. But I know I'm really proud to be a part of this Guild in St. Genevieve. And I look out and see so many people that were here in the beginning. Again, I'm going to look at Mike Devaney as I'm standing here. He was very responsible for some of the very early promenades that we had. And the purpose of the promenade, too, was to pay homage and to show the work of the colony members, maybe as a whole or maybe as individuals. We decided it's time to revisit this. And there's a reason why we revisited this. I do want to thank Donna Rouse. She's the director of these facilities. I want to thank the state of Missouri for allowing us to use this facility. Also, we have individuals who loan paintings to us. They were in private collections, and I really thank the people for letting us show the work for 2 weeks. This is the first time, too, that we've actually had an exhibit for 2 weeks. In the past, it was just for a weekend. So I really, really do extend a thank you to everyone who has agreed to loan the paintings to us, and obviously to the Felix Valley Properties. Also, this is very important. Well, first, Don Rapp happens to be my brother. He's done the sound system for us for many, many years. So thank you, Don, again for doing this. Last but not least, I do want to thank Carolyn Bach. She wrote the grants. We could not do this, people, without money. And so Carolyn has written grants over the years, and she's done an outstanding job in securing money to put on this event. So thank you, Carolyn. That's not an easy job, and we need somebody like you to do this. So Carolyn, thank you, and she'll be talking to you in a minute. We have 20 paintings, and we are honoring and featuring the paintings of Bernard E. Peters. He was the founder of the art colony in 1932. It is also the 85th anniversary of the founding of the art colony. Anna Kirchner, in a few minutes, will talk about this. I'm going to quit for now because sometimes I make mistakes. All right. Moving right along. A couple things I want to point out, and it was pointed out in the paper, and Toby's not here, but I want to thank him for the nice article that he did write. Talked about the commission painting Jules Valley, a prominent man in St. Genevieve, commissioned Bernard Peters to do some portraits of his family. And as you go through the exhibit, you're going to see the one of his grandfather. And what's kind of unique about it is that we, along with the foundation, had the painting restored. And you might want to look at the before and after. It really is pretty amazing. So so that's one story. The second story, we have Brian Helms here from White Cliff Manor. And White Cliff Manor in St. Mary's happens to be is where Bernard and Ord Peters stayed for 10 years when they lived in this area. Is Brian here? But in any case, it's a beautiful home. It's now a B&B down in St. Mary's. The Heatons are actually staying there for a couple of nights. Okay, last but not least, how did we happen to come to this? And this is kind of an interesting story in itself, and I'll try to make it quick if I can. Putting on a show like this is not easy because you have to go out and find the artwork. And one of the reasons we, I think, quit having it for a few years is that we just could not acquire or locate artwork. Now, a lot of the work might be in St. Genevieve. You would think it would be here because the colony was here. And maybe it is here. Maybe it's in closets. Maybe it's under beds. I don't know. But it's hard to find. And it also gets expensive too, because we have insurance and so forth and so on. But we decided it was time to perhaps revisit this, and we really wanted to show the work of Bernard Peters, the founder. But what made this happen, I got a call one evening from Carl Schultz. Carl is in the audience this evening, and Carl, you used to be out at the hospital, and I know you've now come back home again, and he's living in St. Mary's. But he called one evening and he said, I met this gentleman at a conference. Was it in Washington or wherever it was? But it was a medical conference, I believe you said. And met a gentleman who, and I guess in the conversation, he knew you were from St. Genevieve, that there was artwork. And he happened to be the great nephew of Ord and Bernard Peters. And so Carl and I talked, and Carl really, I think, suggested or wondered if we had ever thought of doing a show of Bernard Peters. And then he told me about the 6 paintings that the Heatons had. And when he told me that, when we went to the art guild, it was like a no-brainer. We have 6 paintings. We can start with 6 paintings. I think we can do this show. And so from that point on, for about almost a year, I think it was probably back in, I don't know, March or April, something like that, we've been pursuing this particular show. And Judy and Bill Heaton have been fantastic in working with us. They have, just the fact that they want to share these 6 paintings with the people of St. Genevieve, I think is really, really important. It says a lot about these 2 people. So I want you to take time this evening to talk with them. They are from Spokane, Washington. They came in last night, and we're just thrilled to death to have the 6 paintings that they have lent to us, and it will be on loan now for 2 weeks. So I want to present Bill and Judy Heaton, and I think maybe Bill might say something.
Well, thank you very much. Like Judy and I, we have been fortunate to have these paintings, and probably the best way to illustrate why they're here and how we came about them is they were all at one point in Denver, Colorado. And Ord and Bernie Peters traveled, I think really in his later years. He gave away paintings to relatives in different parts of the U.S. And I'm going to speculate a little. He may have seen that as a way, paradoxically, to preserve them. I think at one point several paintings were stolen when they lived on Compton Avenue in St. Louis, and I think he gave them away in order to keep them. So knowing Carl and having appreciation for this area, this part of the country, and this community, it just seemed natural to have these paintings come back to where they started, to be appreciated really by the people who can appreciate them the most. And so that was our objective with providing them. We did nothing to earn them. We did nothing to deserve them. We have only been stewards of these paintings, and our objective is to let them be seen and appreciated, and I can see how that's done tonight. So they're simply to be enjoyed. You hear so much artwork that's being stuffed in a hermetically sealed container at low temperatures to just be put away. And I don't think that's the right way to appreciate art. So we just hope that you can appreciate anything that comes this way that started from this colony. And Bernard and Ord were very generous in the 40s to give away paintings to relatives, and we just happened to be the stewards to share them today. Thank you.
Thank you again, both of you, for sharing this with us and for being here tonight. I mean, I think it's fantastic that they are joining us this evening, and they've made this trip from Spokane, Washington. It's a long way to come. So, and I'm really appreciative of all of you that are here this evening. Our historian, Anna Kirchner, has just an unbelievable amount of research that she has done over the years, not just on Bernard Peters, but I mean on the colony and just all kinds of people, artists that are here and around and in St. Genevieve. So Anna's going to say a few words about how all of this evolved. Anna?
Okay. I am going to say a few words. In 201, there was a gathering of art supporters, and the goal was to educate the public about the tradition of the arts in St. Genevieve. And from that effort came the Promenade the Arts was organized. And since then, there's been a book published on American Art Colony. There's been a show at the St. Louis Art Guild, had a show titled St. Louis to St. Genevieve. And that show then moved on and was hosted again at Cedarhurst Center of the Arts in Mount Vernon. St. Louis Art Museum produced a show and a book on Joe Jones. He was a member of the St. Genevieve Art Colony, and they highlighted his time here in St. Genevieve. The University of Missouri at Columbia created a show entitled A Midwest View, the Artist of St. Genevieve Art Colony. The St. Louis University Museum of Art had a show entitled Painting the Midwest that featured some of the art colony works. And, of course, the St. Genevieve Art Guild has now had 13 shows featuring artists here in St. Genevieve, and this location is the home of the art colony. Of course, it is a parks, the Missouri Park System, but we call it our home. To be able to come back with the artwork and put it in a location like this, it just absolutely feels right. We are so honored to have that privilege. And so then I'll turn this over now to Carolyn. She'll fill in some more gaps.
Thanks, Anna. One of the nice things about putting together something like this is you get to work with some of the people in the guild that are helping out. And Anna and I have had an absolute ball digging up arcane items about Bernard Peters that no one knew, and putting them together into a story. Hope everyone gets a brochure about this exhibit, because we're very happy to put together the story, and I think it's a great one. The St. Genevieve Art Guild was founded in 1983, and some of the original founding members are here tonight. Megan Forehand and Jane Maker, you'll stand up. We appreciate thank you again for us having here together. The third founder of our art guild couldn't be here tonight. Betty Garrity passed away a few years ago. But Betty Garrity was a link back to the colony, because Betty Garrity had been trained by Charles Reinhardt, as have, I believe you studied Charles as well. Charles is our living link to the art colony, because he inspired Matt Ziegler. Matt Ziegler inspired Betty, and Matt Ziegler inspired Charles Reinhardt. And so we've been an art institution for a long time, in a sense that there's a continuum back from years before the colony, when Matt Ziegler's family was an artistic family and owned this house. And it all came together in 1932 with Bernard Peters, and to celebrate it 85 years on with some of his work that none of us had ever seen, except thanks to the Heaton and to some of our other members who've been very generous with loaning their art. This has been a really nice thing to put together. And the committee that we've had is wonderful as well. Jan Krause and Vicki Cummings and back there have done an extraordinary job with putting together a lot of suggestions in addition to the hospitality, and Bonnie Samuelson organized the food, and we've had a number of other inputs from people who've had expertise. We rely on Jean Risso for some wordsmithing and Dave Carter for some signs, and I've probably left out some other people, but it's been a very, very good group. Of course, the person who put it all together is behind me here, and that's Jaunita Wyman.
Didn't do it by myself.
And of course, that's the whole
Not at all.
point. Yes, we are
Reminded me an awful lot.
we work together as a team. I did the paperwork, she put it all together. So it was good. So wanted to thank all the members who came tonight because you supported us in a variety of ways. The other people who loaned art to us was the Foundation for Restoration, who's represented tonight by Jack and Nikki Petty. Thank you. And all of you who have come tonight have, supported us in our mission. Our mission is to educate the public about fine art and to enjoy fine art and appreciate fine art. And so we appreciate that. And if you want to thank us, there's a donation jar. We are tax deductible. Little public service announcement there. But we appreciate y'all coming, and thank everyone who's here tonight and commemorate this 85th anniversary of our heritage. Thank you.
I really don't think I can add too much more to that. The group, the guild, and the committee members, I really have worked very hard to put this together tonight. We always enjoyed it. The first 10 years we did this, and even back when they did the School of Art. I mean, it's really fun putting it together, and it's even more fun when we walk in and we get to see what we were able to gather and put together. So again, enjoy the evening. The food is fantastic. The music is wonderful. Make sure you chat with the Heatons, please. And there are a lot of artists that are here this evening. Chat with them. And yeah, it's just a beautiful evening, and thank you for coming. you.